Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bill. This video we're going to be in the Dungeon World book. We are continuing the GMing part of making moves. This is the third part, so it's going to be the dungeon moves that you get to utilize as the game master. We'll read into what the list of moves are, as well as all the paragraphs and stuff in this section, and then it'll define what the moves do. And then it'll give advice for dealing with common situations that don't deal with specifically dungeons, just more common situations you deal with as a game master. So let's dive in and see what all they have to say on this and what advice they give. Dungeon moves are a special subset that are used to make or alter a dungeon on the fly. Use these if your players are exploring a hostile area that you don't already have planned completely. So either if you don't have the whole dungeon planned out, you should use these moves, or if you left spaces open and the dungeon is going to be hostile and not passive to their exploration, use them. So that's cool. I'm definitely going to use them. Map out the area being explored as you make these moves. Most of them will require you to add a new room or an element to your map. The first move is change the environment. The next one is point to a looming threat. And these are in their listed order. They're not any numerical order. They're all bullet points. Introduce a new faction or type of creature. Use a threat from an existing faction or type of creature. Make them backtrack, so they come to a dead end of some sort, or they need something to get past it. I always think of Legend of Zelda games when I'm thinking of that. Or Resident Evil games where you need to solve a puzzle and you need an item to solve that puzzle. Present riches at a price. Present a challenge to one of the characters. You can make these moves whenever everyone looks to you to say something, when the players present you an opportunity, or when the players miss on a roll. They're particularly well suited for when the characters enter a new room or hallway and want to know what they find there. So the first move, change the environment. The environment is the general feel of the area the players are in. Carved tunnels, warped trees, safe trails, or whatever else. This is your opportunity to introduce them to a new environment. The tunnels gradually become naturally carved, the trees are dead and strange, or the trails are lost and the wilderness takes over. Use this move to vary the types of areas and creatures the players will face. Point to a looming threat. If you know that something is lurking and waiting for the players to stumble upon it, this move shows them the signs and clues. This move is the dragon's footprints in the mud, or the slimy trail of a gelatinous cube. And any other signs you could think of. I've used that with ogres before in a regular D&D and Pathfinder. And it works very good if they're hunting something or just stumbling upon an area that the thing occupies. Introduce a new faction or type of creature. A type of creature is a broad grouping: orcs, goblins, lizardmen, and the undead. A faction is a group of creatures united by a similar goal. Once you introduce them, you can begin to make moves and cause trouble for the players with those creatures or NPCs. Introducing means giving some clear sensory evidence or substantiated information. Don't be coy. The players should have some idea what you're showing the presence of. You can, however, be subtle in your approach. No need to have the cultist overlord waving a placard and screaming in the infernal tongue every single time. A hard application of this move will snowball directly into combat scene or ambush. Use a threat from an existing faction or type of creature. Once the characters have been introduced to the presence of a faction or type of creature, you can use moves of monsters of that type. Use the factions and types broadly. Orcs are accompanied with their hunting wargs. A mad cult probably has some undead servants, or maybe a few beasts summoned from the abyssal pits. This is a move that often we'll be making subconsciously. It's just implementing the tools you've set out for yourself in a clear and effective manner. Make them backtrack. Look back at the spaces you've added to the map. Is there anything useful there as yet undiscovered? Can you add a new obstacle that can only be overcome by going back there? Is there a locked door here and now whose key lies in an earlier room? Be careful using locked doors like that, unless your players are willing to go with it. Because usually if you have a thief in the party, they'll just try to pick the lock. And if they're really frustrated, they'll just try to break the door down. So that's why I'm giving that comment. When backtracking, show the effect that time has had on the areas they've left behind. What new threat has sprung up in their wake? What didn't they take care of that's waiting for their return? Use this move to make the dungeon a living, breathing place. There is no stasis in the wake of the character's passing, and reinforcements, cave-in walls, cause chaos. The dungeon evolves in the wake of the character's actions. Present riches at a price. What do the players want? What would they sacrifice for it? Put some desirable item just out of reach. Find something they're short on. Time, hit points, gear, whatever. Find a way to make what they want available if they give up what they have. The simplest way to use this move is to promise of gold out of the way of the main objective. Will they stop to pry the ruby eyes from the idol when they know that the sacrifice looms closer and closer? Use this move and you can find out. Present a challenge to one of the characters. Challenge a character by looking at what they're good at. Give the thief a lock to pick. Show the cleric servants of the enemy god to battle against. Give the wizard magical mysteries to investigate. Show the fighter some skulls to crack. Give someone a chance to shine. As an alternative, challenge a character by looking at what they're bad or at what they've left unresolved. If the bard has a complicated lie on his conscience, what steps will he take to cover it up when someone figures him out? If the wizard has been summoning demons, what happens when word gets out? This move can give a character the spotlight, even just for a moment. Try to give everyone a chance to be the focus of the play, using this move from session to session. Okay, so that's all the moves in the dungeon. So now let's look at the advice for dealing with common situations. There are common situations that come up in Dungeon World. Here's how to deal with them. Fights. Sooner or later, blades are drawn and blood is shed. When this happens, the players are likely to start hacking and slashing, volleying and defending. Think about more than just the exchange of damage. Monsters might be trying to capture the characters or protect something from them. Understand what the fight is about, what each side wants, and how that might affect the tide of battle. No self-respecting monster just stands still for their beating. Combat is a dynamic thing with creatures moving in and out of range, taking cover, and retreating. Sometimes the battlefield itself shifts. Have your monsters take actions that the players will react to. Make sure you're making use of moves beyond deal damage even in a fight. Make sure everyone has a chance to act and that you know where each player is during the chaos of combat. Make a map of a complex battle location so that everyone knows just what's happening and can describe their actions appropriately. Traps. Traps may come from your prep, or you can improvise them based on your moves. If nothing has established that the location is safe, traps are always an option. The players may find traps through clever plans, trap sense, or discerning realities. If a character describes an action that doesn't trigger a move, but the action would still discover a trap, don't hide it from them. Traps aren't allowed to break the rules. And I like that. And then people. Dwarven smiths, elven sages, humans of all shapes and size occupy the world around the characters. They're not mindless stooges to be pushed around, but they're not what we're playing to find out about either. The NPCs are people. They have goals and the tools to struggle towards their goals. Use them to illustrate what the world is like. Show your players the common people struggling for recognition or the noble classes seeking to uplift their people. Some whole adventures might take place in a peopled environment rather than an isolated dungeon. Some classes, the bard in particular, are adept at manipulating and using people as resources. Don't shy away from these situations. Be a fan of the characters, giving them interesting, nuanced people to interact with. People, just like dungeons, change over time. The passing of the characters through their lives might inspire or enrage them. The characters' actions will cause the world to change, for good or ill, and the people they meet with will remember these changes. When the characters roll back through a town they were less than kind to on their previous visit, show them how the people are different now. Are they more cautious? Have they taken up a new religion? Are they hungry for revenge? Relationships between characters are represented by the bonds, but relationships with NPCs are more tenuous. If the players want to make real, lasting connections with people of the world, they need to act. Remember, what do you do is a valid question when faced with the hopes and fears of a potential new ally or enemy, as it is when staring down the business end of a longsword. And that ends the Making Moves GMing chapter. As far as the GMing stuff goes, the next thing that I'll be covering will probably be world building, because I like the way they set up fronts and stuff in this game. And it would help you in a Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, or any other game. You just gotta pull it as is and then modify it to fit the type of game. Say, Call of Cthulhu 1920s, Call of Cthulhu Modern, Starfinder Futuristic, and just whatever game, pull and use as you would see fit. The way it's set up would work great in any fantasy game, but from there, if you want to use it outside of that, you just got to change bits and pieces here and there. Like, one of the principles I would add to the GMing thing would be you need to scare the characters. And then I'd have to create moves, which wouldn't be complicated. I have to create one or two extra moves when exploring a place or when investigating that would cause that. And then I'd also have to create moves that would give them an extra clue, maybe. I'd have to look at the moves again, as far as Call of Cthulhu would go. But it wouldn't be complicated to use it and just modify it a little bit. Hopefully this small making moves section for the Game Master was helpful and the advice was good. I think it was. Until we all game again, guys. If you know anybody that could benefit from this, share it with your fellow players, share it with your fellow game masters. This GMing side, keep it away from the players because of how much it would break their feel of the game if they were playing Dungeon World. Until we all game again, guys.